Hi listeners, Harika here, and I'm super excited to welcome you to Upptalk. If you're ready to learn and get your hands work wonders in the world of information technology, then you're in the right place. When I say Upptalk, we are not just another edtech company. Consider we are your learning partner committed to unlocking your full potential. Whether you're stepping into the world of technology for the first time or looking to advance your career, we provide top-tier, hands-on courses to build up your career. Let's take our first step towards learning here and explore it. Let's investigate SAP, a well-known enterprise resource planning system, and discover its many functionalities and business applications.
Security part, HANA Security part. So we are into the HANA Security core topics. So coming to HANA Security, like a major thing in HANA Security, what a HANA Security admin does is that he basically is responsible for both user administration and role administration. Be it application security for ECC S4 or any other SAP solution, the major role for a security admin is to ensure that he is the owner for both user administration and role administration. So initially we'll look into the user admin part and then we'll quickly jump into the role admin part. Like you might have seen, like if you have an idea on the ECC or S4 background, in ECC and S4 we call programs as T, codes, that is transaction codes. And we restrict the access to transaction codes to the users with the help of roles. In HANA-DB, we are going to see a different scenario where we will call the access assignment things called privileges. We call them as privileges. Like I'm just telling you this so that you are good with the terminology. We'll be calling privileges. So, if you have to give access to the user, you will be assigning some privileges to the user with the help of roles. So that is the concept. So that is the core thing. Let me quickly explain you about what kind of users we have. And before that, I want to just show you how the application looks like. So we can access HANA DB using multiple applications. Like I'm only aware of one application, that is SAP HANA Studio. And SAP HANA Studio, usually you can access it by searching HANA. Once you search HANA, you automatically get SAP HANA Studio as a pop-up here if your basis guy has installed this on your server. So once I open HANA Studio, usually what happens? So what basically happens is that whenever I open this HANA DB for the first time, HANA Studio for the first time, it will ask me to create a workspace of my own so that I can do my like, so that I can add my desired systems into it. So once I create this workspace, so this is what we call it as an admin console basically. This is the screen that you get once you log in into HANA Studio. And I have already added this system into as a system. So let me show you this. So once you double click on the system, you'll get the basic details of the system, like the overview of the system, the landscape, all its performance, which I'll go through it. Don't worry. So this is the overview of the system that you get. So if you want to add any new system into the HANA Studio, you can simply click on this new button. And you can click, not the new button. Actually, you can click on add system here. And you can give the details and these details are provided to you by your basis admin usually. So he's going to provide you with the host name instance number, and it is going to be multiple container. Like I'll tell you the difference between the tenant database and the system database here. So usually the end users, usually log in into the tenant database to do their activities, and system database is always restricted. Like system database, access is never given to the end users who are going to work on this database. It is always tenant database access that we give to the end users. So we give the description and we click on. Next, it will ask you to enter the user ID and password, and that's it. Then you'll be able to log into your desired system. And you'll be able to all these tabs here. I'll go through these tabs one by one. So this is how you add the system that you want. It's an easy process. Let us quickly go through these things one by one. So basically this is the HANA Studio, and these are the tabs, or this is the structure that you get once you add your desired system. And before jumping into the explanation of all these apps, basically I want you guys to know like who is going to use this HANA Studio and HANA database in particular. So there are three kinds of users that are going to use this HANA database. Let me show you that. So there are three kinds of users that we have, that is admins, modelers, and developers, basically. And apart from that, end users will also use this system. So admins are the ones who basically create the users and roles, like us. The security people are the admins. Basis team, we are the admins in this system. The basis team and the security teams comes under the admin users, basically because we'll have the elevated access to grant this access to the modelers or developers or the end users. So the modelers are the ones who perform modeling activities like creating objects. Don't get confused when I say objects, because I'm going to clearly demonstrate like what kind of access do you give to the modelers and what kind of activities they do in the system. That shouldn't be an issue. And the developers are going to create and develop the object in HANA database. So these are the major users that are going to that. You are going to see. So going forward, and you're going to learn like how can you restrict the access. Like everyone cannot get the same access. So you have to divide the access between the users so that there is no Saudi conflict. So Saudi is nothing but segregation of duty. So no one person can have all the access with them. Like administrators like us shouldn't have access to create any objects or create any tables or create any views in the HANA DB. Our task is to only to create users and roles in the system. So I'm using this word again, privileges. So the privileges to the admin users should be restricted in such a way that they're not able to create any new models or they're not able to create any objects or views in the HANA database. So for that, you need to create the roles and you need to assign these roles into the user profile, which we are going to see. So, as I said earlier, we are going to create a workspace of our own. And I have already shown you the technical console, which is this. This is our technical console where you're going to see this system. And these are the folders that you get in the system. So whatever system that you add, you're going to get the same folders. I'm going to explain the importance of each and every folder that we have here, basically. And it is not limited to one system, guys. I'm only adding this system as this is the only system available with us. Like this is the training trainer system. But in real-time scenario, we will be adding multiple systems like there will be an architecture like we have a development system. There will be a workflow. From development, we have development, quality, and production. We'll have at least 3 systems. Let us say if your source system is going to be S4 HANA or for instance BW4 HANA. For BW4 HANA, you are going to have 3 instances like development, quality, and production. So you'll be adding 3 systems into your HANA Studio. So it is always advisable for the modelers, or what do you say, for the developers, to do the development activities in a dev and to move these changes or to move this object data from development to quality and quality to production. It is not always advisable to directly create any models or user objects directly in quality or production system. So for that reason, we always have this hierarchy. So we have dev, quality, and production. So you have to follow this process in any organization. So while giving access in quality and production, you should also be aware that you have to restrict this access to the modelers and developers so that they're not going to create anything directly in the quality or the production system. Sometimes there can be an exception. There will always be an exception, not sometimes. There will always be an exception where the user has to create the model or an object directly in the target system. For that reason, we always have a restricted role handy so that whenever these people need elevated access on approval basis from the compliance, you can assign this access to the requested user. I hope it is clear. That is how we do it. And so basically, if you have completed your basis session, so whenever you are installing any new SAP system, there will be a super user ID given to you so that you can log in into the system and you can create the users on roles, initial users and roles that you want. So such user ID in our HANA-DB is the system user ID. So the system user ID is very important concept. So system user ID will have full access basically. So the system user ID is your SAP star user ID. You can relate it to the SAP star user ID if you have idea about. If you have idea about as for HANA or BW or whatever application, SAP application system that it might be. So this is the main user ID system. User ID is granted with all the privileges. Basically, it will have all the access with them. So initially this user ID is provided so that you can log in into the system. And you can do the activities that you desire. And once your activities are done, it is always recommended to deactivate this system. User ID. So this system user ID is very important. So this is the only ID that you have when you log in. Let me add, I'm going a bit off topic here. It might be a bit confusing for you, but later on, once we progress into our further sessions, you will be able to understand all this. So let me quickly come to these steps. What are these steps? So, as the name suggests, backup is nothing but taking backup of entire data that you have. The catalog data or the content data or the provisioning data or the security data that you have. You can create a backup basically by using this backup. By using this backup, and this activity is not done by us, this backup activity is done by the basis admin. So I'm not going to cover this topic here in our class, but I'm going to tell you what it does. So this backup is always handy. Whenever there is an issue in the system, you can always have this backup handy. So in my current project, what they're doing, they're taking this backup once in 15 days and they're saving it in a secure folder. There is a secure folder for my project. They're saving it there. So that if there is an issue, they can have this backup handy and they'll not miss anything. And if there is some large data that they're going to import into HANA DB, so at such instances also, the basis admin usually takes this backup and he keeps it handy so that he can retrieve from that. But here, if you can see, the backup interval is also set. The backup interval is set for 15 minutes. And they're not even limited the maximum file size. So it will keep on taking the backup, but the training, as it's a training server, you will not have much data here. For that reason, it is kept like this. But in my organization, it is disabled. They are doing a manual backup. They're not doing a backup. They have not set this up as a backup. As an interval thing, they are only doing it as a manual backup. That is what backup does. So we are not going to like security. Admin is not going to touch this back. Neither the catalog or content or provisioning. As the name says, the security consultant is only going to touch the security. We are owners only for the security tab. We are not going to do anything in the backup catalog or content or the provision tabs. But I'm going to explain it to you so that you have an idea like how you're going to give access to this catalog or content or provisioning. Third, we'll get a brief idea about it. So let us start with catalog. So in catalog, you always find schemas. So these are the schemas. You already have experience in database. You might understand more better than me. But so these are the schemas that you have in the catalogs. Basically, what is a schema? So schema is basically a logical container where you can store the data simply. So that is how you create a schema. Schema is see what happens whenever you create a user ID in HANA DB, and now you are going to create a new user in HANA DB. So automatically a schema on schema with the name of the user ID is automatically created. So what? What are you going to do with the schema? Let us take an example here. So best is a user ID created. This is the best. Best is a standard database user ID which is created using the system to be user ID or some other user ID, let us say. So whenever you create a user ID called best, a schema of this with the same name as the user ID is already created, automatically created. See, this is the schema which is created by default. In this schema, the modeler or the developer will be able to create whatever he likes. Suppose he wants to create any table, you can create. Suppose you want to create any views, you can create those views. So all these things are called objects. So he'll be able to create modeler, or the developer will be able to create multiple objects using this access. So for example, let us create a table here. You can create any table. And I've just clicked on table and I quickly selected new table. Here itself, you will be able to see what kind of table you're creating. You're creating a table in schema best. Best belongs to who? Best belongs to the user best. And type would be column store or row store. It's up to you. You can select anything. And now, I'm selecting only the column store. Enter some random name. And there's some random name. I'm going to enter test and click on. What is something on it? There is an execute button. Don't I have this access or not? Let me check on this. It allows you to execute this. And it will say this as a table. That's not going to be an option to do it. I can check on it later. Once you execute this, this is the execute button that you have. So this table is not created by the security admin. I wanted to show an example, but it is not letting me to do it. So I think back only. It's not allowing me to do it, it's just fine. So once you execute this, you're going to save this table here. As you expand this table, you're going to find this table. Similar fashion, you can create multiple views if you want. Let us say if you want to create some view here and just click on it and click on new view. And you can start creating the views of your choice. You, in the sense the admin or the developer, can create whatever he likes. He can insert a table, he can insert a join, and he can play with this. I don't know. This is a training system. I'll get this sorted. There are some issues for sure. So in the real-time system, you will not get all these issues. Guys, you have the system ready and all that. You can insert a table that you want. You can always insert joins. You will be it. Let me try to create a table once. It should allow me to create a table in the first attempt itself, but it is not allowing me to do it. I can check on that. I was told that I was given access to all the privileges. But let me see. You might be. But this is my own object actually. So I should be able to create anything in this thing. It's my own schema. I should be able to create anything. This is the schema. This is the user ID which I've logged in, which is the best. So this is my own schema. Best is my own schema. So there will be no restrictions usually to create anything in this. And also, if I'm owner for the schema, I can be able to give this access of the schema to any other user by myself. There is no need to use admin, but that's not doing this. I don't know why. I don't know. Let's use systemd user instead. I'll reset this password instead of using this. That would be better. we have given all these parameters. It's giving me this error message, if you guys can see it. So what happens basically? So when you have the security tab within, when you go to the password policy, you have all these parameters. You have to obey all these parameters if you want to reset any password. I have it. So I have removed all the password restrictions so that I can reset the password. Happily, you don't do it in the real-time scenario. You always select these options so that you have maximum security. It's always good to select all these options and the minimum password length. As a standard, you always give it as 8 characters. So that is how you do it, and maximum login items is too many. 20 is too many. You always go 3 or 4. That's it. 20 is too many. The end user will keep on trying. If at all, there is an SNC configured for HANA-DB. Anyways, the password login will be disabled usually. But still, you should never enable this for 20 days. So the failed login items should always be at 4 or 5 items max. And life of initial password also should not be 365 days, because life of your lifetime of initial password should be max of 1 day or 2 days. Not more than that. If at all, if the password is expired, the user can get back to you for the password reset. That is how you do it. As one duration of user inactivity is that it's such a thing that if you are not active in the system, or if you have not logged in into the system for more than 365 days, then your user ID is going to get locked and your password will be deactivated automatically by HANA-DB. So, in order to keep your ID alive, you have to either log in or use the system, or you can, or else you can raise a simple request to your user admin to unlock your user ID. It will simply take a service note or something like that. And minimum password lifetime and password lifetime is also simple. It's not a big issue. You can understand the name of the thing, what it's going to do. And notification of password expiration, it's up to you. If you want to configure this notification or not. So the mail ID that you update while creating the user or the AD, the Active Directory which the system is linked to. So it will take the mail ID from there and it will send it to the user. This also we never do it actually for HANA-DB. It is left as 0 as well. So I've reset the password parameters. So let's see if I'm able to reset the password now. User ID. It's not doing. Now it depends actually. So this application. So if you're saying that people should be able to access this data from their application directly, then we are not going to create any users and also, we are going to create a user called restricted user in this system. And well, we are going to assign some privileges called application privileges to that user so that he'll be able to view these views. As you said, from the third-party application to this. We are going to discuss this topic later. We're not going to add any new system here. We are just going to create this user with the application privileges. Let me refresh this. Let me try to do this now. Usually we are not using our own IDs in our project. We are only using system ID, which is not good, but we're using it so that we can have maximum access. So earlier it didn't accept because I did not do a refresh here on the user tab. Sorry, on the security tab. So the parameters which we disabled did not reflect in this folder. So whenever you do any changes to the parameters, you should always do the refresh so the changes are reflected to the user IDs. So now I've reset the system, user ID, password. So let us say if I'm logged in, I have logged into HDB. HDB is your system ID guy. So I've logged in into HDB I logged in as DB using the details that I have. But let us say, if you want to log in with a new ID, you can just click on the system and go to add system with different user. Just simply click on it. It will only ask you the user ID and password. It will not ask you to enter the host name or the instance or whatever it might be. It will not ask you any details. You can directly enter the password. You can try to log. So if you're going to select store username and password, it is not going to ask you the user ID and password later on. Once you enter your workspace, your system will be up and ready. Or else, if you're not going to store this in the secure storage, you're going to need to enter all the user ID and password always. Let's try. I'm able to log in with the system, user ID here. So it will show you the ID in the curly braces, as you can see best. This is the ID. Now I'm able to log in into system. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@uptalk.com.